Sure.
Would you like to start?
Hi.
Christian Benteke and Alexander Sorloth both missed last weekend's match against Bournemouth. Are they available for this?
Yeah, I hope so. Alexander Sorloth trained for the first time today and got through the training session well. Christian Benteke has made enormous progress. He joined in the initial part of our training session before going back to the sports science people to try and make 100% certain that it's not going to be too early to throw him back into the action. But if he can train tomorrow, as we hope he will be able to, then he's available.
Is there a risk in playing either of them?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's always a risk, isn't there? I mean, the fact is, especially when someone's had a strain, you can never be 100% sure if there's going to be a reoccurrence or whether they're going to move too sharply. But our medical people are very good. They have a very logical and clear program to make certain that people do not progress quicker than they should be progressing. And basically, I trust them that when they say no, he's okay now and is available to play, then as far as I'm concerned, that's good enough.
So how big a decision do you have to make when it comes to your team selection, given that Wolf Zaha and Ross Townsend against Bournemouth, you said it's the best they played up front for a long time?
Yeah, they were good. But it's a nice so-called problem to have, because if there's one thing we have not had in terms of a problem in recent months is a lot of players sitting behind me who are the right type of players to put on the field. And in particular, of course, any cover we've had has really been in the defensive areas. We've been unbelievably short of cover in midfield and up front, sometimes to the extent that there hasn't been another front player. You take, for example, on Saturday we had Wilf and Andros playing as two front players, despite the fact that they aren't necessarily out-and-out front players. And then on the bench we had a 19-year-old who's only played 3 times for the under-23s. So we've been unbelievably limited. We've been forced, if you like, to get through the games with the 11 or perhaps 12 that we know are the right ones to do the job. But now, luckily, with certainly those two forwards coming back, that's an enormous option to kick off with. And we're also hoping that maybe Jeffrey Schlupp might not be out for too much longer now. He also adds another dimension when it comes to substitutions or starting in the game. So for the first time, we might be looking in the next couple of weeks at having a squad, if you like, which gives me options to change people, options to bring people on, later stages of the game perhaps, and changes of formation. So I'm looking forward to that.
Just give us an update then on Jeffrey Schlupp. How far away?
Well, he's quicker. He's closer to the team quicker than he should have been. It was a nasty injury picked up against Huddersfield, and there were thoughts that it might take as long as 8 weeks to recover. But I think it's 4 weeks, 5 weeks perhaps since we played Huddersfield, and already he's showing signs of being back on the field with us. So we'll have to see again. I'm in the hands of the medical people. I won't get him back until they're convinced that he's ready, but it's quicker than anticipated.
And with 5 matches to go, is that the kind of news that you need to hear, you want to hear?
Yeah, I mean, basically it would have been nice to have had that sort of strength of squad for an even longer period of time, but we've got through it, we've got by, and we're still in with a shout of staying in the league. And I think that if we had these options available and more players fit and a sort of stronger squad, if you like, to choose from, and a stronger squad to use during the course of games, that can only be an advantage for us.
How do you reflect on what happened against Bournemouth, and do you have concerns about conceding late goals? You think of the late goals that have gone against you against Liverpool, Manchester United, Tottenham. Is it a concern?
Of course it's a concern. It's a concern every goal you can see, whether you can see in the first minute or the last minute. But you have to analyse, why the goals have been conceded and make certain that you don't draw the wrong conclusions. If we take the Man United one, I think, that drive for Matic. If we take the Tottenham one, it was unfortunate that Tompkins got injured and Damien had to come on cold and mark Harry Kane at a corner kick. If we take the Liverpool one, after keeping them at bay really for a large part of the game. Zaha got his one chance in the game and took it. And on Saturday, of course, it was unfortunate previous Saturday that we weren't able to see the game out there because we conceded a couple of corner kicks at the end and we didn't get our marking right. So we know why it's happened, and unfortunately it can always happen. But I'd be more concerned if we were conceding late goals because suddenly our play had disintegrated. That hasn't been the case.
So there's not one underlying.
No, there never is one underlying factor. That's something that people like to have, one underlying factor. People would like the game to be simpler. They'd like one simple explanation, and often that explanation is given to them from various people who comment on the game. But when you're working with the players and you know them well and you know what the team's doing, it's quite often a lot more complicated than one simple factor. A pity, because if it was down to one simple factor, it would be a lot easier to put right.
Played Brighton twice already this season. How do you reflect on those two matches? What have you learned about Brighton?
They were both tight games. I remember the second one was a little bit different. It was a cup game, and both ourselves and Brighton had one eye on the league at that time, rather perhaps than the FA Cup. And also, we at the time were suffering from a very severe injury crisis. It will be a very different team that plays Brighton on Saturday to the team that played them in the FA Cup. But on each occasion they were tight games. We're playing a very well organised team, a team that knows exactly what it's doing and does it extremely well. Hard-working team. So add to that the derby factor, which is of extreme importance for both sets of supporters. This is a really big game for both Brighton supporters and Palace supporters. Add all of those things to the mix, it's going to be a really big occasion, but I believe we're ready for it, and I believe our supporters are ready for it as well, and I think it's going to be a really good occasion.
Talking about it being a derby match, there is a lot of rivalry between the two sets of fans. The league match down at Brighton, there were some ugly scenes. What would you say to Palace fans? What message would you say to them ahead of the return?
Well, I'd say to them that first of all, we do need your support. There's no question of that. But we need your support to help us through the football matches. We don't wish to see any trouble, and I'd extend that message to the Brighton fans as well. I'm rather hoping, and you might call me naive to hope for it, that the people who come to this game, the 26,000, are coming there because they really want to support their teams, and they believe, if you like, that they're going to see a good game of football, and they believe they're going to see their team win. The type of scenes which come about through rivalry spinning over into fights and tribal warfare have really got nothing to do with us in terms of football. But I do believe that situation in Brighton is clouded in mystery. It's certainly not as clear cut as it was purported to be at the first instance. So I'm rather hoping that that won't be repeated, any of those scenes, and my plea to the fans is certainly not to give anybody any chance to say that your behaviour was not the right sort of behaviour for a supporter of your team.
Great, thank you. Right.
Just a quick one from me, Roy. You mentioned there about it being a derby, so you're hoping for it to be an entertaining game and have that little bit of extra edge. But does it perhaps provide a more nervy situation, bearing in mind where you both are in the table?
Yeah, quite possibly. I don't think that a game for us in particular, I don't wish to drag Brighton down a few places because they're several places above us. But I think at this stage of the season, as far as we're concerned, these last 5 games have enormous importance, irrespective of who we play. But given the fact that it is Brighton, and given the fact that there is this enormous rivalry between the two teams, I can't deny it gives it an extra edge. But we have to be very careful that what we do in the game is designed purely and simply to get us to win the match. We mustn't allow our hearts to rule our heads to the extent that we make mistakes tactically, or mistakes by showing too much emotion and maybe leading to a player getting booked or sent off, which can happen in these sort of derby games, as we've often seen in the past. We have to be careful, we have to control that aspect of it as well. because there will be matches after this one, and each one of the 5 matches we play now is going to be of crucial importance, I think. But I certainly don't wish to play down the game on Saturday in any way. I'm looking forward to it. You talk about the game being entertaining. It will only be entertaining for me if we win it. But I know that the way the two teams are, it will be entertaining, just simply because that's the way we play and the way Brighton try to play. We're not the teams, if you like, to play the ugly game. So it will be a good game of football, and I can strongly recommend anybody who hasn't bought a ticket yet to try and get hold of one, because it'll be worth watching.
Sold out.
It's sold out, yeah. Too late, you're too late. You're too late.
You must be tempted to stick with Sahara and Townsend up front, given how effective and what a good game it was against Bournemouth. You mentioned that Saturday's game could be really exciting. Bournemouth Palace kind of bucked the trend at the bottom half of the Premier League by being a really open, exciting game. So you know that must be in your mind, and how successful it was.
I was certainly pleased with the game. I was certainly pleased with the team's performance, but I haven't made any decisions yet as to who will play. I'll take your recommendations and your thoughts into consideration when I do so tomorrow, but at the moment I'm just really happy that I know, having watched Sirloff this morning and having seen him work so hard to get back, and to be honest, there's no doubt about his fitness. It's good to have him back in contention for a place, and Christian Benteke, I'm sure he too will be ready for a place in the team. So it's going to be a very different bench, I would think, on Saturday to the benches we've had over the last 2 or 3 months, where often looking behind us and thinking it would be nice to change an attacking midfield or nice to change a forward towards the end of the game, we've looked behind us and there hasn't really been one there.
I'm now going to contradict myself.
Okay.
Do you lose anything by playing Sahara up front from that kind of devastating ability he has against fullbacks to get crosses in? A number of times he's created goal-scoring opportunities from a wide area. If you're asking him to play more centrally, does that take away that element, or can he do that from being asked to play up front?
No, I think he can do that from, you know, we aren't actually nailing his feet down to a central area. We're asking for a lot of movement in those forward areas. Whether he runs at full-backs or centre-backs, you know, I'm perfectly happy for him to run at one or the other. So I'm not so certain that we lose a great deal from it in that respect. We would lose from it if we were looking to play balls up to target players, because it's pretty obvious that neither Wilf nor Andros are what you consider to be a target player. Whereas, of course, Alexander Sirloff and Christian Benteke are very much that type of player. So we have the option on either side. It's good to know that we can use either Wilf or Andros in the wide areas if we want to. And it's also good to know that in Jairo Riedewald we have a very good central midfield player whose chances have been limited. And his chances have really been limited for him, unfortunately, by the fact that we have 4 very, very good central midfield players, and strangely they're the ones who've got through every game and not been injured. The injuries have occurred elsewhere.
It's been, you talked about how limited you were on the bench previously. Do you feel that maybe on Saturday you might have the opportunity to completely change the approach of the team?
Yes.
Because you haven't perhaps had the resources to do that?
Well, as long as nothing happens overnight and tomorrow in training, if I'm looking at the sort of squad I've got in my head now, then there will be definite options going forward, and there will be options defensively as well, because I've had those defensive options for a while. But the back 4, of course, for a long time it's Kelly and Tompkins. Now Sacco's back in, but Kelly is still there available. In terms of fullbacks, we had Fosu Mensah and Bissaka, but now Ward has been added to that group of players, an experienced player. And perhaps Soiree has very patiently waited for his chance to play behind first Jeff Schlupp and now Patrick Van Arnholt. So we've never actually been really that short of options in those areas. It's been in the midfield area, and in particular the forward area, and for a long time in the goalkeeping area. So we only have one goalkeeper. We have one goalkeeper and one centre forward. So it's, you know, there aren't many teams, I think, that will have played for as long as we did in so many important games with only one recognised centre forward and one recognised goalkeeper.
And just finally, you spoken about the intensity of the game. You know, your players in the main are pretty experienced. You've said about the fans needing to kind of keep their heads. Do you still have to talk to players about these kind of hot house environments? We know what happened in the game at Brighton, or are they good enough to be able to sort of handle the expectations?
Well, both the games at Brighton, I've got to say, were played with passion, and they were strongly contested. There's no question about that. But I didn't see anything in either of those two games that really reminded me of the derby I once saw in Turkey between Fenerbahce and Galatasaray. That was another world altogether, and I've not seen anything between Brighton and Crystal Palace which has reminded me of that. And even to some extent the Inter-Juve derbies, you know, they could be quite strong as well. I think the players on both sides are experienced enough to realise that we've got to win this game, but we've got to win it by playing football. We can't win it by intimidating our opponents, because the opponents are too good and too experienced to be intimidated.
Okay. Nick?
You mentioned Saka just then. He's obviously got everyone talking in the last few weeks, and you mentioned you've got more options now. How do you see these last few games of the season for him? Do you keep him in as long as he's playing well, or is there there's a tendency sometimes for young players for their levels of consistency to drop off? But do you see that happening with him? How do you manage him?
I'm not certain really where the question's going. I mean, at the moment Sakho's playing because we think he and Tompkins are the best two centre backs we have at the club. Yeah.
Bissaka.
Oh, Bissaka, Aaron Bissaka.
Oh.
No, well, Aaron, sorry, I think Bissaka. Sorry. Yeah, Aaron Bissaka, well, that makes sense to me, the question. Well, I think he's done well. I think he's done exceptionally well. From about the second or third game on, you're asking yourself the question, is the right thing to leave him in and expose him yet again to the pressures, or is the right thing maybe to give him a rest? I suppose those pressures on me to make a decision are extended by the fact that Ward, who was at the start of the season the man that we thought was going to play right back, as after an enormously long layoff, got himself fit and put himself back in contention, because Tim Fosu-Mensah, he's every bit as much a centre-back as he is a full-back. He's a utility defender. So that's a decision I have to make. But I mean, I certainly trust Aaron Bissaka. I think that it was amazing what he did to come in at a time when we really did need him to play there and do it against teams of Tottenham, Man United, Liverpool, Huddersfield, Bournemouth class. And I think he's acquitted himself well on all occasions. So if he was to lose his place, and that's by no means certain, because I'm not saying that he is going to lose his place, but when the day comes, if I make a decision to put a more experienced player back in, he can feel himself unlucky, and I would be expecting him to knock on my door and ask me why.
There's one follow-up to that question. Obviously, there's a lot of excitement with him coming through an academy player. Have you had time since you've been at Palace, to really look at the pathway and the academy system?
Yes.
And how that's going? And how do you feel the future is?
Well, it depends how far down the academy system you want to go. Of course, I've got James Daly, who I know actually is an under-19 player, but I saw him playing for the under-23s. But yes, I know the under-23 squad well. Due to the fact that we've had so many injuries, many of those under-23 players have trained with us on a very regular basis. Levi Lumeka, for example, was in the squad all the time in the beginning. Jason Lakillo has spent a lot of time in the squad. Nia Kirby has spent a lot of time in the squad. So already, and Aaron Bissaka, of course, have been spending time. So there's 4 players, if you like, who basically have been training in many periods non-stop with the first team. So I don't just know them as players. I know what they're like in the first team squad. Gio has been with us on a few occasions as well. Woods has been with us on a few occasions as well. So I think I know them reasonably well. And of course now young James Daly, who's only 19 years of age, he'd done well, he thought, to play well enough to get himself in the under-23 team. We've watched him play and been so impressed. He's been in the first team squad and has actually been on the bench. So the academy's working well. The under-23 team have qualified for the knockout stages in the development league, which is something we're very happy about and very proud of. And we think there are players in there who will come forward and in the coming seasons hopefully do the same as Aaron Bissaka.
Thank you. Okay, that's end of the broadcast.